Hello and welcome to the Justice Factor. What a political year 2013 was. New political parties were formed, labor disputes intensified, Chapter 9 institutions were celebrated and vilified, while President Zuma remained at the center of our politics. A man also celebrated and vilified in equal measure. Now, in 2014, we celebrate our 20th year of democracy. A noisy and contested election is coming up. How will things pan out for our young democracy? Today we look at future trends in South African politics, and who better to help us look ahead than two of our foremost political analysts in South Africa. Our first guest is Mcebisi Ndletyana, head of the Political Economy Faculty at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection and co-author of this book, Patronage Politics in Divides Us. Our second guest is a man who's no stranger to our viewers, political analyst and author, Moeletsi Mbeki. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Let's start with the bad news. I look at the numbers, and the numbers don't make me happy about our economy. 0.7% growth in third quarter, 52% of our young people unemployed, 0.9% growth in the first quarter of 2013. As I enter this year, I'm already thinking it's going to be a disaster, Moeletsi.
Yes, I think our economy is in trouble, but also the governor of the Reserve Bank has been warning the government about its policies or lack of policies, has been warning the government that it has to take more proactive measures to ensure that the South African economy grows. Nobody's listening to her. The government is not listening to her. The media does listen to her, but that's about as far as it goes. So yes, our economy is in trouble, and as the governor has pointed out, most of the problems we have are of our own cause.
Are they of our own cause? I mean, the world is not doing so great. The Eurozone is growing at what, 0.2%, whatever.
You see, we South Africans love to blame somebody else. We love to blame foreigners. Just look at the way in which Eskom is building the power stations. They're a year, 2 years behind schedule. That's not the foreigners who are causing that problem. The consequence of the power stations being a year or 2 years behind schedule in their construction is that we are now running power cuts. We are now having browning periods for our big industries. Then you are not going to grow the economy if you cannot build power stations and deliver them on time.
Ndletyana, what are the consequences of all this?
Well, without jobs, obviously, you have a serious problem of youth unemployment, which we have, and great social strife, great dissatisfaction. And these are people who feel marginalized, and they are likely to respond to any populist measures because they don't have a stake in the system. They see other people doing well, you and I and Moeletsi doing well. So they feel left out, and they then lash out. And that lashing out can take different forms. Already you have very violent strikes in our country. People are kind of responding to radical measures of nationalization. Marikana, for instance, was one tragic consequence of that. So if we don't contain that, then we are likely to see our society fracturing somewhat. And social cohesion is something that we greatly need, not only racially, but also in terms of socio-economic living.
Moeletsi Mbeki, what should the party that wins this year's elections do to fix this economy, to get us to 5 or 6% growth?
Well, what it has to do, it has to talk to the main economic actors in our country. And the main economic actors are the private sector, the parastatal sector, and organized labor and labor generally. Until these three can speak the same language, our economy is always going to be in trouble. Let me give you an example. The Minister of Mineral Resources declares coal to be a strategic product, a strategic mineral. This is her own declaration, doesn't talk to the companies that mine, doesn't talk to the unions that work in the mines, and to the unions that burn the coal. She decides, I will fix the price of coal so that if you supply coal to Eskom, I, the Minister of Mineral Resources or the Minister of Public Enterprise, will dictate to you at what price you should sell coal to. Now, who is going to invest in our coal mining industry under such circumstances?
That relationship in Mcebisi Ndletyana is in trouble. Government is saying you're corrupt. Look at the construction collusion issue. Labour has been on strike, plus COSATU is divided. Can we get that conversation going?
Well, it's partly a historical problem, distrust. Unfortunately, what you have a political elite that is black and a business elite that is white. There's very little in the middle. So you have this division, and unfortunately, people are not appreciating the consequences of that. I think government continues to think that business is not patriotic enough. Business thinks that politicians are squandering public resources. They are not keen on raising taxes, for instance, because government is not performing well. They think those taxes will be squandered. At some point, we'll have to come together. I don't know what exactly will bring that into being, but in some cases, what you need is a crisis. Public policy is very difficult to change. People prefer the status quo because they benefit. Business doesn't want to redistribute. They don't want to pay more. Unless they see the cost of not paying, it's only then that they will do something. But for now, I'm afraid you need to get the two parties. You need a broker, and perhaps Cyril Ramaphosa might be that broker. I don't know. But the rest are spewing very violent rhetoric that drives business.
I'm sorry, but this is a crisis.
Can I disagree with my comrade here? I'm part of the economic elite, and I'm not white.
Very small part.
I own companies. I have set up companies. I've built buildings in this country. I don't get consulted any more than the white business people get consulted. So I don't think it's whether we're black or white. The point is that the government thinks it should dictate in the economic arena and should not consult with anyone. But this has consequences. If you dictate to economic players, you will get strikes, you will get investment strikes, you get all the issues that have led to the low growth point of 0.7%.
But there's a history to that. There was a point where business was not investing in our economy. When we did all sorts of things, the previous president, Mbeki, all sorts of reforms for which he got a lot of flack. And instead, South African business went overseas, they were bad-mouthing BEE. So there's a history to this distrust. It's not just government, it's just irresponsible. Business has not played ball, and all they do is to blame government for all this inefficiency, which we know is there, but they are using that as an excuse not to come to the party.
I'm getting from both of you that it's looking bleak, and I'm not sure where the solution is, except to go and perhaps implement the NDP. I'm not quite sure about it, but we'll come back to this issue later on in the show. After the break, we look ahead to the 2014 elections and the opposition parties.
News that moves. ENCA.com.